Greetings, Brother Masons, wherever you are. It is indeed a genuine pleasure and a distinct honor to share these special moments with you. Although my words are inadequate to express my true feelings, a special word of thanks goes to Brother Albert McClelland, my good friend and Masonic brother, for giving me the high privilege and the humbling experience to be a part of this distinguished lecture series that has been designated as the worldwide exemplification of Freemasonry and sponsored by the Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of Indiana. Soon after Brother McClelland began making preparation for this lecture series, he contacted me and invited me to be a part of it. When I accepted his gracious invitation, Brother McClelland requested that I address you on the subject of God and geometry in Freemasonry. My first reaction was, that topic sure doesn't leave much room for levity. But I am truly grateful to Brother McClelland for his gracious act of kindness to and confidence in me. Two, there are others to whom I owe a tremendous debt of gratitude, and I want to give a heartfelt expression of thanks to each of them. I am grateful to Brother Johnny Yates, immediate past master of Lancaster Lodge number 104, here in Lancaster, Kentucky, for his encouragement and help. Also, I am grateful to Brother David Meade, master of Lancaster Lodge, and Brother John West, secretary of our lodge, both of whom so graciously accepted the responsibility to perform all necessary technical services to make this presentation possible. A little over a year before I submitted a petition to Lancaster Lodge number 104 to become a Mason, a good friend and colleague in ministry, newly initiated and genuinely excited about that initiation, proudly thrust his fist into my face and pointing to his new Masonic ring, declared with a great deal of enthusiasm, "See my new ring? The G in that emblem stands for God." I must admit that at the moment, I thought little about what my friend and ministerial colleague did and said. But in due time, I learned what he meant, and I came to appreciate it. From time immemorial, the G in the beloved and respected Masonic emblem has stood for God. And every time a Mason sees that emblem, he should be reminded of that solemn fact. In his significant work known as the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, first published in 1873, Albert McClelland wrote that it is certain that this symbolism was well known and recognized as far back as 1766. In that classic publication, Mackey called G a symbol of a symbol. That is, Mackey wrote, because the Hebrew letter Yod, the first letter in Jehovah, is the abbreviation or symbol of that name. Now, he suggested, G is in like manner the initial of God. In Freemasonry, that symbol is indeed powerful. Robert McCoy, in the General History, Cyclopedia, and Dictionary of Freemasonry, published in 1868, wrote, "The symbolical letter G, before which every true Mason reverently uncovers and bows his head, is a perpetual condemnation of profanity, impiety, and vice. No brother who has bowed before that emblem can be profane. He will never speak the name of the Grand Master of the universe, but with reverence, respect, and love." When 59 years ago, I presented a petition to Lancaster Lodge number 104, a free and accepted Masons for membership, I was young and had a lot to learn. Indeed, my need, although not fully understood at the time, was for more light. I had been and was an active member of civic organizations in communities in which I had lived. And I expected the lodge of which I was about to become a member to have a lot in common with those organizations. It did not take long for my understanding and expectation to change radically. Instead of the frivolity I assumed to be associated with initiation, there was, at the outset, a solemn encounter with deity or God. And after 59 years, I still remember that totally unexpected but awesome encounter. In the special room where I was being prepared for what was ahead, I was asked some thought-provoking questions. One of which was, "Do you believe in God, the Creator?" Although I was pastor of a church in the community, I did not take that question seriously, for I didn't think those asking that question took it seriously either. Therefore, in a light-hearted sort of way, I answered in the affirmative, primarily because I thought that was all that was expected of me. Then I was escorted to the door of the lodge. Upon entering the lodge for the first time, I was surprised. The first Masonic lesson I learned was a profound one. It is indeed an important and humbling lesson, and one that goes to the very heart of Freemasonry. In the dignified and solemn way I was taught by my brothers, as every candidate for the degrees of Masonry is taught, that Masons should never enter upon any great or important undertaking without first invoking the blessing of deity, that is God. Later, on March 10th, 1953, when I was raised to the sublime degree of a Master Mason, that lesson, in a more personal and more profound way, was indelibly etched upon my mind at the altar of the lodge. My brother Masons, that lesson, deeply imprinted upon my mind, has been with me for the past 59 years. During the last several months, while preparing for this special occasion, I can assure you that on numerous occasions I have paused to invoke the blessing and guidance of Almighty God, the supreme architect of the universe. Immediately upon becoming a Master Mason, I learned that God is central to Freemasonry, and sincere prayer to Him is an integral part of every lodge communication. At the end of this calendar year, I will have served as chaplain of my lodge for 23 years. At the proper time in every communication, the Master uncovers his head and always reverently and respectfully asks the chaplain, one of the appointed officers of the lodge, to pray. And the prayer the chaplain offers is neither a frivolous one nor a mere bit of ritual. It is a sincere prayer to Almighty God. In his delightful book, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Freemasonry, Brother Brent Morris wrote that these prayers by the chaplain are not addressed to some composite deity or to some Masonic God, but to the one living God who created the world, the architect of the universe. In Masonic tradition, this phrase, the great architect of the universe, goes back at least to 1723. In that year, the premier Grand Lodge in London codified its traditions with the publication of the Constitution to the Freemasons by the Reverend James Anderson. It has been suggested by Masonic scholars that Anderson took that phrase, the great architect of the universe, from the Institutes of the Christian Religion by John Calvin, the noted Protestant reformer of the 16th century. In that classic work, Calvin used that phrase, the great architect of the universe, numerous times. So, for almost 300 years, that phrase has determined the way Freemasons refer to God. Since becoming a Master Mason, I have served at the discretion of the Master on numerous committees of investigation. In that role, other members of those investigative committees and I sat down with men who had petitioned the lodge for membership, and we had meaningful conversations with them about many things. Those conversations, often interesting and stimulating, led us to our understanding a great deal about those men who were favorably impressed by Freemasonry and were seeking to become associated with it. During those very serious conversations, ultimately, one question was put to every prospective member: do you believe in God, the Creator? That question, asked of every prospective member, has its origin in the ancient landmarks of Freemasonry, those time-tested and unchangeable principles that set boundaries and fix limits to guide Masons in all fraternal relationships and activities. In 1858, Albert McClelland compiled a list of those landmarks and published it in the October 1858 issue of the American Quarterly Review of Freemasonry. Among other things, that list of landmarks states unequivocally that qualifications for membership in a Masonic lodge require belief in the existence of God as the grand architect of the universe. My brother Masons, Masonic inquiry ends at that point. It does not go further. It does not go into an involved theological discussion about a prospective member's beliefs in God. As long as there is belief in the existence of God as the grand architect of the universe, men with differing theological persuasions can come together as brothers in the fraternity of Freemasonry and have genuine fellowship with one another. Not long after I was raised to the sublime degree of a Master Mason, I met another young man, a friend, who had gone through that same experience. With a great deal of pride in his Masonic accomplishment and the new ring he was wearing, he thrust his fist into my face and proclaimed, "See the G in that emblem? It stands for geometry." As a young Mason, I was a bit surprised, for apparently I had missed something along the way in my Masonic journey in search for more light. I had been taught that the G in the emblem stands for God. But as I continued to seek more light, I made another significant discovery. Indeed, the G in the Masonic emblem does also stand for geometry. In an encyclopedia of Freemasonry, Albert McClelland quoted Frederick Dalco as saying, "The letter G, which ornaments the Master's Lodge, is not only expressive of the name of the grand architect of the universe, but also denotes the science of geometry, so necessary to artists. Likewise, Robert McCoy, in the General History, Cyclopedia and Dictionary of Freemasonry, wrote, "The young fellowcraft is the representative of a student of the sciences." And to him, G represents the science of geometry. Also, Henry Purtle, in the Kentucky Monitor, said that the letter G is the initial of geometry, the fifth science. But a little later, Purtle wrote a clarifying statement. The symbolic letter G also alludes to the sacred name of deity, the grand geometrician of the universe, before whom every true Mason, from the youngest entered apprentice who stands in the northeast corner of the lodge, to the worshipful master who presides in the east, reverently uncovers and bows his head. When I was 15 years old and beginning my junior year in high school, I was introduced to geometry, a subject I enjoyed and appreciated very much. Throughout my adult years, geometry is one course that has had a profound influence upon my life. Geometry is that branch of mathematics that deals with points, lines, planes, and solids. It examines their properties, measurement, and mutual relations in space. In that high school course, we learned through the process of logical reasoning to take a theory, determine what is to be proven, gather and arrange the known facts, and reach a logical conclusion. Throughout my adult life, that process for gaining insight into truth has been most important to me. Geometry to me gives meaning to the Masonic concept of God. For grand geometrician of the universe, as well as grand architect of the universe, suggests in a significant and meaningful way that the creator of the universe is the embodiment of intelligence, wisdom, and logical reason. Therefore, his creation has meaning and genuine significance. Furthermore, his designs, written upon life's trestle board, are purposeful and have vital significance for every individual. At all times, an attempt should be made to discern and follow these designs. From ancient times, operative masons used geometry to erect masterpieces of architecture that have lasted for centuries and have been admired by millions. It has been my good fortune to visit and admire many of these great masterpieces. and they are magnificent. Likewise, speculative masons have used and continue to use the instruments of geometry, the plumb, the square, and the compass, to plumb their deeds, square their actions, and circumscribe their characters in a way that enables them to build lives of beauty and significance as they discern and follow the designs of the grand architect or the grand geometrician of the universe as he writes upon life's trestle board for them. Thank you, my brothers. May the grand architect, or if you choose, the grand geometrician of the universe, bless you and guide you as you seek to discern and follow the designs he has written upon life's trestle board for you. So mote it be.